Well, good morning, everybody. Well, it's good morning for me. What time is it? It's 5:59. Sunday, May 18th is when this is being recorded. Come out in about a week. And I am at the office early. Got here, did some accounting, some other things that, an entrepreneur likes to do. I would assume. If the accounting is good, right? And I am going to film and record this podcast this morning. So this one is called Hair Today, Gone Tomorrow, right? I know it's not really a business podcast, but it can be. It's not really a lifestyle podcast, but it can be. It's just kind of one of these things that I want to talk about. And I know sometimes it does have emotional ties to people. So I think you'll find this, whether it be educational, funny, or just straight out depressing, it's about hair. So what we're going to do is, if you are watching, I have my helmet here. It's called the Thermodome, and I'm going to grow hair while we do this podcast. So I'm going to take the headset off, and then we're going to grow some hair. So we're going to put this thing on.
Ready for treatment. Place on head.
Place on head. Here we go.
382 started.
So that's 382 treatments. And I've had this thing for over a couple years. In the directions, it basically states, you can see the red light kind of going if you're looking on this on video. It basically states you use it like every other day, every 3 days, right? And it's a red light therapy that supposedly heats up and does things to the scalp, and I do believe it's been working, and I have been taking pictures to show that. So as I've been tracking my hair journey, when I was, I believe, 49, I started this, and documenting and writing down every single day what I've been doing for hair. Now, let's go back to the beginning of the hair journey, and let's talk about how this may resonate with some of you about your hair. I've had a lot of you even reach out to me and ask me what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Some younger, some older. And I really am of the belief that everybody's hair journey is different, and it really depends on where you're at and a whole bunch of other, let's just say, aspects of your lifestyle as well. So my personal hair story starts basically when, I was a kid. My mom cut my hair all the time, and I had cowlicks. I always had very fine, like thin sort of hair. I got buzz cuts when I was little, and I would always be able to see what we would say, the scalp, right? I never had that really thick. My brothers, who had a different mother, and their moms got some of the thickest hair that I've ever seen in my life. My two brothers, or quote unquote half brothers, they are just like, it's like rugs. It's like just these thick, beautiful, hairy rugs. I'm so envious of my brothers, right? But same father, okay? Different mom. I didn't get blessed, right? I didn't get blessed with that. And I certainly didn't get blessed on my mom's side either. My Uncle Michael's bald, my Uncle John, who's passed, he was bald. My grandfather is passed, he's bald. I think that whole side of the family is bald. And then, of course, we hear all of the, generational stuff that being bald has to do with your mother's side. And I guess that would be, in my case, it would be semi-true, not true. I mean, here's the thing. I'm 51 years old, and I don't have the thickest hair in the world, but I certainly don't have no hair. Like, I still walk around confidently with hair. At times, does it look thinner than usual? Yeah. But I will tell you, there are times where I've really contemplated just like shaving it off. And I do have a nice round head. I think that's one of the key components of what people do when they when they go and shave their head, it's like, okay, it's probably just better gone than not. And we'll get into that in a second. So, I didn't really start noticing thinning or anything like that until probably I was in, believe it or not, high school. And, I think my grandfather and that side of the family, they were bald when he was like 18 in his 20s. And that just wasn't my case. I've always had hair. I've kept it. It's always been kind of the front and the top of my head where it just looks very fine and very thin. And what is really ironic is that my father, who has a nice, beautiful head of gray hair now that he's not using just for men and making it orange, my wife and I would just be like, what are you doing, Dad? Seriously, it looks really bad. But he's gone back to his natural gray look, which makes him look just very manly, very old school, And it looks good on him, and I think gray hair on men looks very good on them. I think gray hair on women, quite honestly, looks good on them. It's an aging thing where there's that sort of wisdom and sort of that ownership of who you are, is part of it. And so I just went through this whole aspect of emotion when, I was in my 20s and at the latter part of high school where I was like, oh my gosh, my hair's so thin compared to others. There you go. There's 15 minutes remaining on the hair thing. So this thing gives you a timeline of like how long. I believe it's all in all, it's like 20 minutes every couple of days. I would basically just have these insecurities all the time. And so when you look at the confidence struggle of what goes on with hair and how a lot of us, especially men, will tie their identity to it sometimes. And not all men, but I do believe a lot just struggle with the fact that they don't know how, when, where, what to do with it, or when, too much of let's just say a scalp is showing and they're going under all of these thoughts like, gosh, do I shave it? Do I find a procedure? I guarantee if you go on the internet and you look for like videos on YouTube, because I've searched them and I've looked at a lot of them, you will see and hear all sorts of different things to do. And I don't know what works or doesn't work when it comes to looking at all that stuff. I just know what's been working for me. And I'll probably post some before and after pictures of my hair. Some of this journey that I've shared with people, I've showed them this, and it's absolutely incredible. So and I'm going to share all the stuff that I do now, and I'll share a lot of the stuff that I wasn't doing before. When I look at where I was, let's just say mid-40s, and I was eating like trash, I really do believe that has something to do with the overall health of not just like your body or who you are or your energy, but I do believe it has to do with hair growth. I believe what you put in is what you get out. And I've noticed an extremely amazing difference by eating 90% of the time, if not 95% of the time, ask my wife, because she cooks for me, organic, just healthy, clean food, vegetables, all that sort of stuff. Do I overload on some sugar here? Of course I do. And that was a whole podcast on that and a whole podcast on, quitting alcohol and all that. But in the meantime, I have really cleaned up my diet, cleaned up my act, cleaned up my sleeping habits, my ability to work out and to do stuff, to really wash my hair, not like all the time, but most of the time, if that makes any sense. So again, that's part of the protocol that I'll get into. And I just wanted to keep my hair. I can't even tell you how many times I would watch a Jason Statham movie or something like that and be like, that guy's pretty badass. I'm going to grow my beard out and shave my head. What a just easy way to live life, right? Because simplicity is really best. At the end of the day, do we really need hair? I think it's a personal preference, choice. And again, when you look at, what you're doing and you're struggling, because people are like saying things to you. And people have said a lot of things to me over the time. Really good friends of mine are like, oh, dude, nice, thinning hair, this and that. And a lot of people just don't care and don't notice. And I think it really comes down to, I know it really comes down to whether you care or not, or whether you notice and how you feel about it, And so when I was single and I was a dating man, right, I didn't want to be a bald dating man. And for whatever reason, the good Lord gave me the ability to keep whatever I could to at least capture my wife. And she never really said anything to me. I don't think my hair was that thin to where it was that noticeable. But, back to my dad, like his hair is really fine. I would say thin is a good term, but fine is a different term, where in certain light aspects, you can see my dad's scalp, right? But he's got a full head of hair. And so it's very odd in the aspect of, like, if you look at my family, the genetics that I got, and whether that plays a part or not, I know a lot's been talked about that. I don't know. I'm just a big dummy that's just trying to keep his hair. I can tell you that when I've had the combination of my dad, my mom's side of the family, that I'm just kind of that in between. I'm that person that doesn't really know what his identity should be. I have enough hair to put some gel in it and look like I've got some good hair, right, with the right lighting. And I have also less hair than, say, somebody that has really, thick carpet hair like my brothers. And what's really funny is when I was in high school, I had long hair. I had hair down to my middle of my back. I was a rocker dude working for the record labels and always into the music business. Thought I was cool. And the hair... 10 minutes now. And the hair was long and straggly, right? And it just looked bad, but it was very curly and wavy, but it wasn't thin in that aspect. Like I had enough of it. And so I grew long hair out, and I had long hair probably for, 3 to 4 years, begrudgingly from my parents' opinion of it looking good. And I just cranked it out, man. I wore ponytails. I wore all sorts of stuff. I remember I still have like ponytail holders of when I would wear my hair like that, and I thought it was cool back then. And then you get into your 20s and your 30s, and you don't want to deal with it. It was a lot. Like my hair would freeze when I was going to school up at NAU for a year. And I'd have to walk to class, and I'd shower real quick, and I'd go out, and by the time I got to whatever class I was going to, my hair was frozen. It probably wasn't good for it. It probably wasn't good for the health of the hair. So here I am now, right? And I feel like I was never one to really wear hats all the time. I don't mind wearing a hat. Sometimes I just kind of like the look of the hat. Actually, I feel I look really good in a hat, pretty sexy, like manly, right? A little more manly than sometimes my wave cowlick and poof hair. But you'll see a lot of men mostly. And I think this podcast is going to resonate mostly with men. I don't see a lot of women with hair loss, yet there are women with hair loss, and that can be even more emotionally, how do I say, just a downgrade on their confidence, just because, we're used to women all the time having hair. But I think bald women are absolutely beautiful. I think humans in general are beautiful, hair or no hair, right? I'd much rather have the look of a bald man or a shaved head man than, say, like a very hairy man, which it's kind of ironic, too, because I have zero hair on the rest of my body. And it's not that I shave, and people always accuse me of that, but I'm just very, I'm like a hairless cat, right? I'm a hairless Italian, which is a hairless Italian. Oh, that's great. Okay, so that's just one of those things that just doesn't really happen a lot. And what I've kept on my head, we'll get in the protocol here in a second, but, a lot of times when people even get to maybe a little bit past my point where it's just becoming noticeable and they're just not feeling confident about it and they don't want to live that way anymore, they'll go and get hair transplants. And I looked up some of the statistics, whether they're right or not. Again, we're living in a world of AI, but from what they were saying, it's like 700,000 people a year go to get a hair transplant. That's almost 1 million people a year to go get a hair transplant. And generally it's men. It's 90% men from the years of 30 to 40 years. Now what are those years? Those are the years of, you in your career money-making mode. Also, for most men, that's the time that you're going to go find a companion. And a lot, again, it comes down to the whole aspect of confidence, right? So do I have the confidence to make money, to go to a meeting? Is somebody looking at my head? It's just so weird that people put so much emphasis on this and look at somebody as maybe less successful or less as a mate, whether they do or they don't have hair, right? I've always thought about this, and it's always, honestly, completely bugged me. Now, a hair transplant can go for $4,000 to $20,000, right? And that's probably why there's not more. It's not like you're just buying a pill and hoping that it works. And we'll get into pills in a minute. But you can go to Turkey, right, and get it for $5K, right? You can get the best hair transplant ever for $5,000. Again, I've never thought about doing a hair transplant. I've seen these places on the side of the road. Well, okay, I lied. I have thought about it, but man, it just looks painful. Like just cutting this. Oh God, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I think even when my follicles get to the point of just quitting on life, I'm a 51-year-old man that's married, that's already made a lot of money, and I think it just comes down to shaving at that point. Like, I just don't need to, maybe if I was missing a tooth, I'd get it replaced. Maybe not even. Like, how many more? Maybe I have 50 years left on Earth and I want to look the best. I don't know. I think it's personal preference for everybody. So no judgment there. Okay, so let's get into my protocol because I know everybody's so interested, right? And over the years, I've done a bunch of different stuff. I've bought 5 minutes remaining. We're just growing hair, baby. So in my years, I've bought all sorts of different pills. I'm not going to name names of stuff except for the stuff that I have just used recently and that I feel does have some ability to work. But let's just say you get hooked, and you hear things either on podcast, on the internet, through friends or whatever it is that are telling you, oh, no, this works. And I just don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all when it comes to hair. I think there are certain things that can help and that do work for all people, but I just don't know if a pill is really the answer. If there was, I just think that you would have less hair transplants and a lot less, stuff going on, and everybody would just be popping the pill, kind of like, a testosterone pill. So you look at my protocol now compared to some of the stuff I did. And actually, I remember talking to my barber at one point, and he's from another country, and he said that they would take a hot chili pepper. I forgot about this. Oh my gosh. I did this too. You'd put a hot chili pepper inside of a jar of vodka, and you'd let it sit for 30 days. And then you would rub the hot vodka chili pepper. My wife, she saw me doing this. She's just shaking her head. And the cheapest vodka you could find, like literally plastic bottle vodka that I would go to the drive-through and go. And oh my God. So I'd be rubbing my head with this alcohol that had a chili pepper in it. And supposedly it would open up the scalp. Because again, that's what happens when you're losing your hair. Your follicles go away. They close up. They're not open for business anymore. Follicles done, right? They're just not producing. And so I think the theory behind that was to put something hot on your head with alcohol to really just kind of open up the follicles and do that sort of thing. So I did that for a while. I just got sick of rubbing vodka on my head, and I didn't really feel like it was the most, potent, amazing thing to be working. So did that for a while, quit that. And then my wife and I listened to a lot of podcasts, and she made the mistake of sending me this one podcast, and there was this dude on there, I believe his name was like Farrar or something. And I listened to the podcast, like, wow, this is cool. This dude was like totally balding, and now he's got this big, thick, head of hair. And I was like, well, I wonder what he does. And I went out on a whim and I Googled, I found this guy, I reached out to him, and believe it or not, he responded. Like, he personally responded to me, and he gave me this whole protocol. Now, just being forthcoming with you all, he does have a supplement, and it's called Fully Vital. And I was on that supplement for 2 years. I took it, twice a day, a couple pills. And it had nothing but just an overload of like vitamin A and B and E and all sorts of, it was just a good combo. It might as well have been like a multivitamin. and I took it religiously, bought this stuff. I also bought other things with this company, but he was kind enough to give me this protocol. And literally, this is the protocol that I've been doing for going on 2 years. And I've taken a picture every month on the same day, in the same mirror, through the same lighting of what my top of my head looks like. Because really my issue, or what I feel would be my issue, because we're really, let's just say, how do I say, critical of ourselves a lot more than most people are, right? So I just look at my issue and I'm like, okay, what is my biggest issue here? And it's funny because I have shirts I'm not wearing right now. I'm wearing my Metcon shirt because I'm going to Metcon after this. But I have shirts that have my face on it with my hair sticking up, right? And it's just ironic that, you know, I have all sorts of stuff that have to do with my hair and keeping my hair and doing those sorts of things. So that are, you know, in my literature and all this other stuff. And I'm kind of like, gosh, I really got to keep this hair. So first thing I do is, like, when I wake up in the morning, if it's helmet day, right, I'll put this helmet on, which I think we're getting close to my 20 minutes here. I'll put this helmet on. And I will sit in bed, drink my coffee, read my book, and 20 minutes, as you all know, goes by real fast. So I've got the red light going. It's piercing down into my head, and that is supposedly stimulating the follicles. Red light, we've all heard about red light. We all know that red light does the body good, not just on your scalp, but everywhere else, to help with skin, help with inflammation, all sorts of stuff.
382 complete.
All right, 382 is complete, folks. So we'll take this helmet off. Oh, and I just kind of scratch my head. Boom. So I'll do the red light helmet. Then I will go in and I will go in the bathroom, and I have this plastic comb that doesn't necessarily feel great, but it doesn't feel bad. And it's a plastic comb, and I just run it through my head. And during the course of the day, I'll run this plastic comb through my head about 400 to 500 times. Again, just stimulating the scalp, just rubbing it. You can hear me rubbing it right now. Just rubbing the scalp and stimulating and getting some red on the scalp. You know, you can see it. And I will do that. And then when I go and I take a shower, I have this dandruff shampoo that's like prescription base that he recommended. And I'll just put a little dab of that on. And it's not, no, I don't have dandruff. But supposedly that is something else that helps take care of, like, just getting all the junk out of the scalp, right? You know, because again, the scalp has pores breathe, they sweat, you know, all sorts of buildup happens. So it's just a prescription-based shampoo that I utilize, and I've been using that for this whole time as well. Take the fully vital vitamins, right? And I would do that as well. The other things that I would do, say, twice a week, is I would take this metal microneedling roller, right? And it's something that you would see probably like in an esthetician's office or whatever. They microneedle your face or whatever and try to, I don't know, it's a thing that women do, but this one I use on my scalp. And I gotta tell you, there was nothing that I would want to do less when I first started this thing, because it was so painful. And there's just little tiny needles that just pierce into the scalp, and you're rolling it up and down, and you're doing it sideways and backwards. You're doing it diagonal. You're doing it in the other hand. And I would what's really funny is I would start to sneeze when I would use this thing. So for some reason, it would like pierce into the scalp. Remember, this is live skin that you have, and it would cause like a sneezing fit. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. Like, my head was not used to this sort of thing. I'm like, so much pain. Finally, 2 years into it, it's not a big deal anymore. Like, I utilize that thing. I go over it real quick. And of course, your scalp is red as all, right? So at night, if I was doing the microneedling, I would then take the Minoxidil. And I really think Minoxidil is probably the secret ingredient here that's doing most all the work. I think everything else is helping and it's ancillary, but I think doing that stuff alone is not going to keep me in the race to keep my hair of at least what I have left and what I've grown back. And So the Minoxidil 15% or whatever it is, again, this is something that was referred to me over by Farrar that owns Fully Vital, and I've been using his protocol for 2 years. And I would just put, the Minoxidil in my hair. It drives my wife nuts because if anybody has used this stuff or you know about it, it's really sticky, it's disgusting, it's gross, and it will stain pillows really bad. So I'm not allowed to sit on the couch without a towel on the pillow. I mean, it's just a whole thing. And I've gone through many of, let's just say, pillowcases. But for me, it's worth the few pillowcases to keep with this procedure, because let's talk about results. When you look at results, and I will say during the virus stage in 2020, I went through another hair crisis, and I wasn't doing any of this stuff, honestly, but I was growing my hair out, and I looked horrible. I looked like one of those wannabe 80s rockers that is playing your local bar and thinks he's hot, and it's just really bad. And the hair was just thin, it was long, it was stringy. And when I look back at some of those pictures, you could literally see more scalp than you could hair. But I was just in denial, right? I was like, oh, my beautiful flowing hair. And my wife would just tell me, you look ridiculous. And she was right. She was right the whole time. I look back now and I really laugh. So I get done with that whole phase, right? And then I start on this, let's grow the hair phase. I got short hair. It's easier to manage, maintain. Excuse me. And I do that. I do the hair protocol that I'm telling you guys about. And the results are amazing. Like, within months, I could just see overall thickness. I could see more areas where hair wasn't growing that it is growing. And quite honestly, it's not like I look like a chia pet that did amazing, but I will say I'm very satisfied with the results, and it's helped me keep a little bit of that confidence to keep whatever I'm doing going, because I like the results and I like how it is. So I do think Minoxidil is the number one thing. I believe Minoxidil is something that was in Rogaine and all those popular things that you hear about. But I know that the other stuff works. It's a whole thing. It's a whole routine. It's just like anything else. You just got to work it in your day, and then eventually it just becomes one of those things where you don't think about, right? And I do believe that eating cleaner and my workout routine and all those sorts of things are definitely beneficial. If you do look at the industry around keeping hair, it's like a $4 billion industry, right? So enough and a lot of people care about this. You look at Julius Caesar, he wore a wreath, not just to flex, but he was balding, right? I mean, back in the old day, they didn't know how to deal with balding people, right? And in ancient Egypt, baldness was treated with hippo fat and porcupine hair. But yeah, that's what they had back then. Just absolutely crazy, right? So again, I don't think that you're doomed if your hair's, thinning. I think there's a number of things that you can do. You just got to be satisfied with the amount of things that you need to do to get there. And I think that you also have to realize that the results are the results, and there's really no cure for this. It's just maybe a mitigation of it, in my opinion, right? And also, your hair doesn't define you. I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't. And if you look at just the fact that you are living a life on this planet that's spinning around, and you're sitting here and you're worried about whether you have more hair than you would like, what are we doing, right? And I have to tell myself that all the time. But I get it. Vanity is a big thing. That's why all these procedures, all these doctors, all these things, all this stuff, it's absolutely huge. I get it. I would just say watch out for the scams, because there's a lot of them. Obviously, a $4 billion industry. There's a lot of people out there that are making money off of this stuff. I've been a sucker and prone to pretty much anything that I've seen. A lot of quote-unquote snake oil. Literally, probably tell you to put snake oil on your head. I would also just be careful when you're doing something that, you're ingesting. I had to get off of the supplements and some of the supplements because I do blood work twice a year. And my doctor's like, well, let's try to get off this and see if this changes the level in here. So there's a lot of things you just got to be careful about and just understand that it could have another different adverse effect on it. You got to look at those things, my sexual drive, my testosterone, all those sorts of things, whether one thing would react to me differently than say it would react to you, right? Oh, a couple other funny things. Ancient remedies. Rubbing onion juice, garlic paste, cow urine, or goose droppings on your scalp. Yeah. I'm not going to do any of that. I'll just shave my head. So remember that bald can be beautiful. Own it if it's you, right? I'm not ready to quite own it. I did think about shaving my head for this summer because I thought it'd be kind of cool to see what that kind of looks like. But I still have these t-shirts of my spiked hair. So I don't know what I'm going to do, right? And just own it. Have fun with it. Just know that there's a common myth that bald guys have more testosterone. Studies. And bald men are often perceived as more dominant, more confident, and more intelligent, right? I mean, ask Bezos. Dude's pretty intelligent, right? I think that at the end of the day, it's just being happy with who you are and, the way you just want to pursue yourself through life. And ask anybody that shaved their head and that's bald. They probably don't even give it a second thought anymore. And they're just like, nah, it just is who it is. And think about people that come into your life, like you look at them and do you really judge them on their hair? And if you do, like, is this really where we're at in life right now? So those are my protocols. I wanted to just share all that. A lot of people have been asking me about my Hair Nation. The Hair Nation is my favorite channel, actually. That's a 80s butt rock. As everybody knows, I love my 80s music. And talking about rock stars, let's talk about bald rock stars, okay? Can you, before I end this podcast, can you tell me some bald rock stars? Think of some in your head right now as you're listening to this podcast. Name like 3 in your head. And then I'm gonna name a few right now. So let's Okay, you ready? Rob Halford, Judas Priest. Is that one of yours? Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins. He had hair at once. Phil Collins. Who doesn't love a little Phil Collins? Genesis, right? Moby. You guys remember Moby? He had one really good popular album. I'm going to pull that out. How about Maynard from Tool? That's a bald dude, right? He's mad. Joe Satriani. He's a guitarist. A very good one. And I think one of the biggest rock stars that's bald that really wore it well, and I believe he had hair in the beginning of his career, was the lead singer of R.E.M., Michael Stipe, right? All beautiful looking men, very sexy, very together, and very successful. And I just don't think that they let hair be a limitation to them. Didn't cause them to write better or worse music, right? So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Again, a little bit different. I really appreciate Dr. Park, who came on the last podcast. I hope you enjoyed that as well. If you're listening to this one and you didn't get to listen to Dr. Park, I believe she was episode 165. Check that one out. That's a lot of fun. And again, thanks for all that you all do. Please share this if this resonates with somebody based on hair. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up on social media at I am the Delo. And until then, enjoy your hair or enjoy your no hair. We'll talk to you later. Peace out.